Hey guys, welcome to Kissing Static. I'm your host, Kissing Static. Today I bring you a story out of Chicago, and this is according to The Guardian. This is a story about Anjanette Young and the Chicago police and how they raided her home, and it was a botched raid, or not. It was a targeted raid, or the wrong address, and that's what the police say. So, during a botched raid by Chicago police, Anjanette Young waited naked, handcuffed, and terrified, insisting at least 43 times that the officers had targeted the wrong home. "I was afraid if I did anything or made any moves that they would shoot me," she told Good Morning America on Friday. "They had guns pointed at me. I feared for my life." That night, in February 2019, Young, a black social worker, was inside her apartment changing her clothes after work when police loudly broke through her door with a battering ram. Body cam footage was released this week showing that the raid after Young filed a Freedom of Information Act request so the public could see it. The footage shows an entourage of screaming male officers crowding into the apartment where Young stood unclothed. The room was so dark that all she could see were the lights and scopes on guns pointed at her, she said. Police draped a series of garments around her, a short coat that primarily covered her shoulders, then later a floral print blanket, but because she was handcuffed, she couldn't hold any of the makeshift clothing together. They viewed Miss Young as less than human. Keenan Salter, Young's attorney, told local TV station CBS 2, which showed the footage blurring portions that showed Young unclothed. Eventually, an officer helped her keep the blanket closed, and after around 13 minutes of humiliation, she was finally escorted to her room so she could get dressed. "Oh my God, this cannot be right," Young shrieked at the officers. "How is this legal?" The painful incident lasted about 40 minutes, all because police didn't do due diligence researching an informant's bad tip before securing a search warrant. Officers were looking for a 23-year-old suspect who lived next door to Young and who could have been tracked by the electronic monitoring device he was wearing at the time. Young said that the incident has left her with lifelong trauma. "I have an obligation to make that wrong right," said Lori Lightfoot, Chicago's mayor, on Thursday. "It's been painful and upsetting." Lightfoot had initially tried to distance herself from the incident by saying it happened before she took office in May 2019. Her administration tried unsuccessfully in court to block the TV from airing the footage this week, which Young obtained through her lawsuit with the city. Young was denied access to the video in a November 2019 Freedom of Information Act request to the city. The city also tried to have Young sanctioned for apparently breaking a confidentiality agreement. Later, Lightfoot apologized. She said Young shouldn't be punished and vowed to make changes in the department on the warrant process and use the video to train officers on what not to do. Lightfoot said Thursday that the city would also make changes to allow victims to get video faster without having to file a request. Anytime a person who is a victim requests information about an incident that happened to them, our government's obligation is to respond in a fulsome, transparent, and immediate way, Lightfoot said at the news conference. Okay. So, this was a lot to go through. This is only one article by The Guardian. There's plenty more online. And everything she has going for her, everything she has, said about it, you could tell she's just traumatized, and every time she has to tell the story, she just keeps reliving it. And you can, when you view the video, as I'm gonna post here, you can see the indifference of the police officers, even when they realize they have the wrong house, and they just keep telling her to relax. Ultimately, I think they were lying about having the wrong house, because there's ways to go about getting with the information that they needed to getting the person that they needed to get. The person that they were looking for had pretty much ankle bracelet on, and probably had to report to a parole officer. They could have gone through his parole officer. There's so many other ways they could have gone about making sure that they had the right person, the right tip, but because they were operating as a goon squad and not the actual police that we pay for to make things good and right and wholesome, this is what we get. And do I think it was the police on the ground that their issue? No, I think it was whoever signed off on the warrant, whoever was the commanding officer at the time, or whoever was over the whole operation. That's the issue. The other issue I have is that the raids are a quick way to get shot, even if you're a police. Like, I don't understand why raids are a thing. Like, there has to be other ways to go about getting the things you need. I think that when things like this happen, when they're clearly, which by the way, they're clearly lying. This is my opinion, is that the police department, the government, or whatever, is clearly lying about having the wrong house. I think they do this to traumatize the city, traumatize the residents, traumatize the black people, the white people. Not white people, but the residents and the people that are associated with that person, which are probably other black people. When you traumatize somebody, you push them into a low vibrational state, and basically you push them into a lower state that they can't be as effective if they can't be as effective because they're dealing with healing from their trauma. Than actually doing the work that it takes to build, whether wealth or build. And it's just another way to say you need to be put in your place, even if it wasn't purposeful by the people actually physically doing the raid. But this is just shown to be okay. Like, this is what this looks like. You're shown to be okay. Not you or this, but what's shown to be okay. Pretty much traumatizing black people is shown to be okay time and time again. And instead of the police department becoming, being very open and just instead of just being very open and dutiful and the government just being open and honest about the situation, they just choose to hide because they don't want to have to pay out anything. And it was a wrong raid. They didn't even offer service, like true service. Even the way they tried to, when they busted into her house, they broke her door and then they tried to jimmy rig some sort of contraption to keep it closed, like with her stuff, by the way, and that wasn't working. And the thing is that they have all these technologies at their fingertips. They have all the manpower in the world that could have came. They could have called a few more officers over, fixed her door, and been on their way. They could have done so much, and yet they did so little. And that was because they meant to traumatize her. And that's what I see in a lot of other raids. That's what I see in that situation with the data scientist in Florida, where the government was basically, there was a white woman and her family was pretty much held at gunpoint by like during a raid, and here comes and they pretty much went to take her stuff because she was doing the work of the Lord, in my opinion, by keeping truthful information out there about COVID in Florida. But the government in Florida didn't want her to have that. So it's just these constant compiling stories of how the government uses the police force to act in a very negative interest of the people, and that is just traumatizing the citizens constantly over and over again. And before anybody says it, like, do I think there are good cops out there? I absolutely do, but the system doesn't allow them to be good cops. That's how I see it. And it's like, once they realize that all they have to do is shut up and go along and they'll be fine, then that's good. But if you try to be a hero, you're not going to be welcome there. So I don't care. I don't care, but I just think that I don't think that it seems like life isn't worth it. The fact that we all exist is ridiculous, and we all exist in such the fact that we all have the capacity to be such sinful creatures is ridiculous, and it makes me sick. And I'm saying this from a human point of view. This is sick. This is sick, and it keeps repeating itself over and over again. And unfortunately, it was her her house. You know, whose house is it going to be next? They're still planning it. We're going to hear about more botched raids. This is just one person that we've heard of out of the thousands that happened. There's so many that we haven't heard of. So many people we haven't even heard of that are still out there. So many police videos that are out there that we can't even get access to because they won't release it. And I mean, think about all the stuff that's on tape that we can't get access to, and then all the stuff that's off tape that we will never know. Like that's the issue. So what's my issue? What's my overall problem is just that this was awful. It was clearly she was clearly targeted. I don't care what anybody says. Nobody can convince me that they had the wrong house or the wrong apartment or whatever, no matter what anybody says. Like, I mean, not even no matter what. Like, if somebody could give me factual evidence of like them mistaking it and like all this other stuff, okay, I'll believe that. But I don't believe it, not in the little bit, not even a little bit, that this wasn't purposeful on her. She's a social worker. She has to have her vibration, or when I say vibration, but her spirit has to be up, because she's working with vulnerable populations, and she needs that energy that she's using to heal, to help heal others, or to help get to people to the right things. And this is what I'm trying to say, is that they traumatize communities, and then people ask, well, why are they like that? They're like that because they were traumatized, you know. And why is that person like that? They're like that because they're traumatized. Say amen, get far away from them because they need to deal and heal on their own, and say a prayer, and then just keep moving, because you got to realize some people had just been traumatized in their life, and that's why they are the way they are. So I pray for this woman's healing. I hope everybody out there says a prayer for this Anjanette Young's healing, and the healing of the city of Chicago, because if the police are such a corrupt, like, it's not even just the police, it's just the system. The system is extremely corrupt, because a police officer can be corrupt, but if there's nobody there to correct them, if there's nobody that's going to correct them, it's just going to continue to spoil the rest of the cops. What is it? The apple is the bad apple spoils the bunch. Like, yeah, the whole bunch are spoiled. You know, and so I don't think I really don't think it has nothing to do with the government being, it has nothing to do with the government being, in my opinion, I don't think it has anything to do with the police officers themselves being corrupt at all. I think it has everything to do with the system that sets this up. And we just, every time something like this happens, nobody's changing it. There's constant articles wondering why Chicago's police haven't changed, or haven't changed in all these years, when Chicago's police has constantly been reported. I think that's what I want to say. Not reported, excuse me, but they've constantly been, God, I want to say reported. They've constantly been recorded as like having one of the most corrupt police districts. And you get the right people in there, it's over. Like, you know, you gotta break it up. You gotta break it up. You gotta put some of that stuff you put on your ear, in your ear, to break up the earwax. You know, you gotta put some Bodax on there. I think that's what it's called, Bodex or Bodax, to break that up. No, but it takes time and effort and money, and every government that I know of in America is reporting financial loss in some way or the other. There's probably like one city that's not. If you have a comment about this situation, about this Anjanette Young's targeted raid, please like, comment, and subscribe, and share if you care. I really would appreciate it. My name is Kissing Static. Thank you for watching my channel, Kissing Static.